Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in my kitchen. I'm not in a studio or outside Old Trafford. And the weather outside, as I look through my window in sunny Salford, is a bit grim. Yeah, it's not too sunny. So if you do go out, make sure you got your parkers on. A few United stories to get through. Obviously, we're in the January transfer window, and it's all gone a bit quiet, isn't it? It's all quiet on the Western Front. Doesn't seem to be a lot of movement in terms of Manchester United transfers, which isn't the news a lot of us wanted. I think we were all hoping for at least one or two signings coming in January, which may still happen. But at the moment, the Reds haven't been doing any real business. We'll get into some of the stories, though, because we have been linked with a couple of players. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that will come to fruition. Right, just a quick one on outgoings before we get into ingoings or incomings even. Ingoings, is that even a word? I don't think it is. Says here in the Mail, I think this is, the United to contribute to Jadon Sancho's Dortmund wages. We're still waiting for that deal to be done. He's going to go out on loan to his former club, of course, according to multiple reports. The Mail is saying that we're going to pay, or United are going to pay, up to 100 grand a week towards his wages. I'm not surprised by this. Jadon Sancho is on huge money. He's on about 350k a week, I think, maybe even a little bit more. So would Dortmund be paying all that? No, they don't pay that kind of wages, those kind of wages. They've had talented players in the past, like Bellingham, Sancho, Haaland, but they've never been on those kind of wages. They've got moves that have led to those wages, as Sancho has with Manchester United, but I'm not surprised that for Dortmund to take Sancho, United would have to pay some of his wages, and it still makes sense for me, this deal. People may look at it and go, why are we paying some of his wages, or we shouldn't do it, or whatever. For me, you ain't going to get him out the door if you don't, and he needs to move on. I'm sorry, but he does. So I think this makes sense. Let me know what you think. You may disagree. For me, United paying maybe a third, bit less than a third of his wage, then it's not the end of the world. I think it's a deal that makes sense. But like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, as well, if you're not doing already, subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers. And with your support, yes, your support, we will get there. Some other stories doing the rounds as well. Not just, obviously, Jadon Sancho stories. Hopefully, by the time you watch this, I said this yesterday, by the time you watched it, that deal's already been done. But it's just dragging on a little bit, innit? It says here this is in the Manchester Evening News, and this has come via Le Bon Conseil du Sport. Forgive me for that absolutely woeful French accent. That was a French accent, in case you were wondering. It says here, according to a report by the French news outlet that I won't repeat, we're in for Giorgio Scalvini. We're in advanced negotiations for the Atalanta centre-back. Now, I had this story last week. Scalvini, who's been doing very well at Atalanta, decent young centre-back. Looks like there's a little bit of momentum gathering to this story because, like I said, it's been doing the rounds now for a little over a week or so. He's only 20 years old. He's got 7 caps for Italy. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about him. I'm not going to do some ham-fisted scouting report, but I suppose that would fit the bill. A young centre-back, highly regarded, doing well in Italy. We want, reinforcements in the centre-back role. Are we going to get him in the January transfer window? I doubt it, even if we are going to get him. Also, Atalanta, they don't let players go for cheap, do they? Rasmus Højlund, Amad Diallo, both came to Old Trafford with pretty hefty transfer fees. I think Diallo's rose to about 37 million. He'd played an hour of professional football, and the deal could go up. It could go up to 37 million quid. I'm not saying it will, but that is phenomenal for a youngster who barely kicks the ball in his professional life. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund, I think, was around £70 million mark after pretty much one really good season, or one good season, you could argue. I like Rasmus Højlund and I like Amad Diallo, but let's be honest, Atalanta didn't sell those players on the cheap. They got very good prices for the players who were relatively unproven. So Scalvini, who obviously is an Italy international, I think that they're going to want quite a bit of money for him. Let me know what you think about the kid. If you know much about him, please, by all means, get involved in the comments and let us all know, because I don't. I presume Stephen Howson has probably done a scouting report on him. The BBC have said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to watch the next United game. United play Spurs on Sunday. He's going to be there, according to reports. Obviously, he's taking over 25% of the club, but is in charge of the footballing department. We've seen all the pictures of him visiting, carrying him and Dave Brailsford. Put my teeth in. We're still waiting to see who's going to be the next director of football or sporting director, whatever you want to call it, under the new Ineos regime. heavily linked with Dan Ashworth from Newcastle. We've also heard rumours about Paul Mitchell could have a role. A few others as well. I think there was the lad that used to be at Liverpool, I think Julian Ward. There's been a few names bandied about for director of football or sporting director roles, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to come to the game on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see what sort of reception he'll get. I presume he'll get a better one than the Glazers used to get or do get whenever they come to Old Trafford. A couple more transfer rumours to talk about as well. United are interested in Zirkzee. This is the kid from Bologna. He's got 8 goals in 22 matches, and according to Tutto Bologna Web, we remain long-term watchers of the 22-year-old. He has, I think he's got a release clause of around £34 million. It'd be great if United could start signing players for around 30-odd million. It's such a big difference. Joe Smith always makes this point. It's a true one. If you buy a player for around 30, even 40 million, and he doesn't quite hit the ground running or things aren't going his way, no one really jumps on his back. No one really goes, oh my God, what a disaster. This is terrible. When you buy a player for 70, 80 million or whatever, unless he sets the world alight immediately, everyone's on his case. And I think that can get in a player's head. I mean, look, it's interesting. Look at Liverpool as a good example. And it's not very often to say that. Cody Gakpo, I think he was like, 40 million? Not really done loads. No one really talks about him that much of flattering to deceive, which I think he has. I think Ronaldo Brown made a good point on Twitter, like, what does he really do? He's not really done a lot. Whereas Nunes, who actually has got quite a few goals and assists, gets hammered because he was a lot more. And I think the expectation's more. So it'd be good to see if United could start sort of buying around the 30, 40 million pound mark. Also, as well, it's not rocket science. You can buy more players if you buy at that price. And there are good players at that price. It's not like you have to spend 70, 80 million pounds to get good players. You can get them 30, 40 million. City do it all the time. Yet for some reason, Manchester United have failed to do that. When's the last time we went and bought a good player for that mark? I think Bruno was 46 million. I think when we got him, he's the only one that stands out. I think everyone else has either been a lot more or they haven't lived up to expectations. A couple more stories to get through as well. Isaac Hansen Aaron is considering his future. Current Evening News, he's entering the final 6 months of his deal. Reports that he's not too happy about the fact that he missed out on some first-team games. Didn't obviously feature in the squad for the Wigan game. So, yeah, he could be on his way out. It's a shame he's a talented youngster, but there's only so many opportunities you can give to youngsters, and it looks like he's not going to get one of them. It is a bit of a shame. There's a story here in the Express. This is from Alex Turco, I know well. Good lad, Alex. And he says, Manchester United chief Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Mason Greenwood return stance decides January U-turn. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a big decision to make on Mason Greenwood's Man United future, which is obviously true. Manchester United won't be making a U-turn by recalling Mason Greenwood in the January transfer window. This is what the report says. Due to Sir Jim Ratcliffe's relaxed stance on his future, according to reports, Greenwood's potential return will be one of Ineos's first major decisions once the Premier League ratifies the 1.3 billion deal for the 25% stake in the club. Until then, the 71-year-old has started preparations in meetings at Old Trafford and United's Carrington training complex. But it looks like they won't have the power to execute decisions until the deal has been officially passed. It then goes on to quote or to mention Ben Jacobs, who we've had on the channel quite a few times. He knows his stuff. It says, according to Ben Jacobs, there will be no final decision this month, despite the 22-year-old's forwards eye-catching exploits on loan at Getafe. It also says Ratcliffe in his confidence must make a crucial decision on Greenwood's future after the storm created by his planned return last year. So we'll have to wait and see. It doesn't seem there like they're saying the door is closed on Mason Greenwood returning. And that's what I've been thinking for a little while. I thought the statement that United put out and Greenwood himself put out, Rich and Allen put out, didn't for me feel like he's not coming back to Manchester United. He's never playing for this club again. Also with a new regime, new people in charge of the football department, you never know what twists and turns they may be. Obviously, it's not footballing reasons that Mason Greenwood's not playing for Manchester United, and I completely understand why a lot of people don't want to see him play for Manchester United again, but remains to be seen whether Sir Jim Ratcliffe shares that same view. That's all from me. Joe Smith is going to be back later on tonight. He's going to be back for Paddock Live. I'm not. It's my better half's birthday, so a bit of family time for me this evening. Happy birthday, Barney. But I will be back tomorrow with the news. Make sure you're not doing already. You hit like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jay Motty in a pretty grim Salford, weather-wise. Thanks for watching.